Hey everyone, what's going on? Hope you're having an awesome day because we've got a fresh Borderlands 4 patch to unpack, and this one actually changes how the builds feel moment to moment. I'm talking about update 1.004.001, just dropped, and while it isn't a mega seasonal overhaul, a few precise tweaks land right where it counts, in your damage math and your weekly grind. So let's break this down like we're hanging out on stream, controller in hand, and you're asking, okay, should I respec? What should I farm? And does this make my favorite shotgun slap harder? Short answer, yes, if you're running certain passives. Long answer, that's the fun part. The biggest thing people are going to feel as soon as they hop into a fight is how the passives Forgeknight, Dragon's Breath, and Exo-Soldier first impression are applying their bonuses. Previously, the buffs behaved in a way that kind of smoothed out across your total shot, which meant multi-pellet and pellet-splitting weapons weren't getting that visceral oomph on every single piece of lead flying out of your barrel. With the new behavior applying per-projectile, weapons that fire multiple pellets, split mid-flight, or duplicate projectiles through skills and gear interactions, get paid for each pellet individually. If you love the crack of a heavy shotgun or you're leaning into quirky bullet-splitting gimmicks, this is your moment. Here's why that matters. Imagine you're stacking bonuses around crit and elemental procs. When a buff scales with each projectile, it doesn't just make the initial trigger stronger, it multiplies the number of individual roll chances you're pushing into the enemy. Every pellet that can crit, every pellet that can ignite, shock, or corrode, each one benefits from the passive rather than getting rolled into a single bland pool. Think of it like turning a single punch into a flurry and then seeing each hit at the same steroid shot. That's a direct feel upgrade in minute-to-minute gunplay, especially against tankier enemies and bosses, where pellet count translates into cleaner breakpoints and faster phase transitions. If you're the kind of player who keeps a stable of shotguns for different situations, you'll notice it fast. Classic multi-pellet shotties, slug types that split, even some pistols and ARs with alternate fire modes that fan out projectiles, all of those get a more honest return from your build's passive investment. This also nudges people to experiment with choke attachments and barrel mods that bump pellet count, because now you're not just spreading damage thin, you're stacking buffed pellets that each carry their own little slice of destruction. Let's talk builds. Forgeknight users who've been in love with elemental uptime can consider shifting a few points out of flat weapon damage and into anything that increases projectile count, pellet behavior, or status chance per hit. The synergy is cleaner now because more pellets equals more buff applications. Pair that with gear that procs on hit effects and you have a lovely cascade. Exo-Soldier mains who enjoy aggressive openers should feel their first engagement in a room hit harder, and that can shift the rhythm of fights. You might find you can open with a shotgun blast to instantly remove a priority target rather than softening them up first. If you're into melee hybrid setups, the per-projectile application also helps if your playstyle weaves in gun hits between melee windows, because it raises the ceiling for each burst of fire before you swap to close-quarter execution. Now I know some of you run projectile duplication tricks, skills or items that cause extra pellets to spawn, ricochet, or fork. This update rewards those choices more directly. If you've been holding a dusty gun that never quite felt worth the slot because the math didn't check out, run it again. The difference between a weapon feeling cute and feeling sticky often comes down to whether each pellet is pulling weight. You might also notice certain damage breakpoints changing. Enemies that used to need 2 volleys might melt in one clean burst when you layer in status effects and crit multipliers. There's also a little fix that matters for collectors. The Maliwan legendary sniper complex route was incorrectly dropping as phosphine. That's been addressed. If you were confused by your loot feed or worried you'd never see the proper drop name, this cleans it up. Functionally, the gun is the gun, but the satisfaction of seeing the correct name on your screen and in your stash matters, especially for folks who enjoy organizing sets and documenting their collections. Keep an eye on your runs. Your tracker and bank should reflect what you actually earned. Weekly activities also turned over with this patch, and there's some solid value in planning your grind. The big encore boss this week is Pango Bango. Expect a tougher variant with more generous loot rolls. If you're newer or returning, this is one of those fights that rewards learning movement patterns and burst windows. With the per-projectile change I mentioned, shotguns and multi-hit setups shine here, especially if you can stack a little survivability to staying close and land the full spread. Try running a high pellet shotgun with a magazine mod that keeps you in the pocket longer, swap to a sustained elemental rifle for mid-range phases, and hold your grenade for ad clears. Keep an eye on armor bars, and adapt your element to break quickly. Shock for shields, corrosive for armor. And don't forget to reposition after each heavy volley. You want those pellets landing center mass, not winging off into the scenery. The weekly wildcard mission is mob rules with the modifiers Healthy, Fortified, and Regenerative. Translation: enemies soak more, defenses are stiffer, and they regenerate if you slack on pressure. This is where the per-projectile buff really sings, because sustained pellet streams cancel out regeneration more reliably. If you're used to taking measured shots with a single high-impact sniper, consider swapping to something that delivers many hits in quick succession. On the reward side, the mission is flagged with a guaranteed legendary Birt's Bees. If you don't have it yet, this is a perfect time to check it off your list. If you do have it, roll again for a better anointment or stat line. My route recommendation is to clear the early rooms as efficiently as possible without burning your cooldowns, then pop your big skills for the mid-mission surge where Regen and Fortify stack on chunky elites. Keep a dot ticking to stop the regeneration from undoing your work, and don't be shy about reload cancel techniques to maintain pressure. Maurice's Black Market has also shuffled location and stock. You know the routine. A little scavenger hunt to find the new spot, then a peek at the wares. With the projectile change, it's worth scanning the inventory for anything that adds pellets, splits shots, or interacts with on-hit mechanics. Even a mid-tier roll can feel better this week because it plays into the updated math. If you're stretched on currency, prioritize purchases that synergize with your main build's passives. Ammo economy, projectile count, and elemental consistency should be your North Star. A quick platform note for anyone confused in the menus. On consoles, you'll see the build labeled with that new version string I mentioned at the start. Don't overthink it. If your system shows that label, you're on the right patch. If you update and matchmaking acts funky, the devs recommend a full game restart. It's simple, but it clears out a lot of weird session issues after patches. Do that before you assume your friends list is cursed. Let's circle back to how this all affects combat rhythm, because that's where games like this truly live. When a passive applies per projectile, time to kill usually compresses at close to medium range, where spreads are tight and pellets cluster on target. The knock-on effect is that crowd control tools suddenly become more valuable, not because they do more damage, but because they buy you the fraction of a second needed to land full pellet counts. Stuns, slows, cryo effects. Those little windows turn into guaranteed burst conversions. On the flip side, if you're fighting at extreme range with something that only launches a single projectile, nothing got worse. It's just that the new best-in-slot feel might sit a bit closer to the action. If you're stubborn about range, consider hybridizing your loadout so you have a pellet option for pushing into priority targets and a precision option for cross-map cleanup. One under-discussed detail is ammo economy. More pellets means more chances to kill, but it also means you can chew through magazines faster if you're holding the trigger and praying. Plan for it. Mods that increase mag size or grant refunds on crit can even out the flow. Skills that reload on kill or on ability usage play better now, because your time between reloads becomes the limiting factor on melting packs of enemies before Regen brings them back into the fight. In mob rules, for example, a badly timed reload can be the difference between clearing a wave and watching health bars refill while you slap in a fresh magazine. Think about your rhythm. Burst, reposition, reload while moving, burst again. Keep those dots running so nothing heals up during your reload animation. For bossing, consider a two-phase approach. Start with your pellet monster to shred shields and armor quickly, then swap to a high-precision weapon for crit phase if the boss has tight windows. Because each pellet now carries the passive, your opener will be significantly more explosive.